Beloved, selected soul, your presence here is no mere coincidence. The divine realm arranged this encounter. Your essence, being pulled toward these words, signals that destiny has located its rightful recipient. You stand now upon the edge of something holy, a celestial transformation destined to reshape your existence permanently. For a decade, another soul has sought you out, not through random occurrence or happenstance, but through sacred orchestration. Their innermost being has called to you through supplication, enduring flames, weathering tempests, surviving periods when the heavens themselves appeared to offer no response. The appointed moment has now arrived. As Ecclesiastes 3 verse 1 proclaims, "To everything there is a season and a time for every purpose under heaven." Anointed one. The time meant for you has come. This transcends ordinary communication. This represents a celestial rendezvous inscribed upon eternal scrolls before your initial breath entered your lungs. The revelation approaching will shatter everything you believed to be true. Shackles are shattering. Barriers are collapsing. What remained concealed now rises into visibility. This instant demands more than passive listening. It requires active engagement. Proclaim your readiness now. Announce to the celestial realm that you stand prepared, for we approach a transformative supplication that will demolish spiritual fortresses and liberate what has remained restricted for far too long. This serves as your divine confirmation, and it commences in this very moment. Beloved, selected soul, preparation unfolds within you for something exceeding your wildest imaginings. What approaches is not merely a fulfilled petition. It marks a pivotal junction, a defining instant where celestial forces intersect with earthly reality within your existence. The disclosure ahead will rock the very foundation of your perceived understanding. It will penetrate beyond superficial comprehension, reaching depths within you that have remained concealed even from your own awareness. The individual who has pursued you carries no ordinary essence. They represent no accidental presence stumbling into your timeline through chance. Rather, they connect to your calling through divine linkage, woven into your history, bound to your unfolding fate. Within them rests a fragment of your narrative you never realized was absent, a fragment that opens the subsequent phase, a fragment that makes whole what has remained incomplete for so long. The adversary anticipated this moment's arrival. He understood before your birth that this celestial alignment was documented in heaven's archives. He has battled ceaselessly to prevent it. 10 years of obstruction, 10 years of falsehoods designed to create confusion. 10 years of opportunities blocked, communications undelivered, divine meetings postponed by unseen forces. Every strategy has been deployed to keep this truth buried under distraction, uncertainty, and supernatural conflict. Yet the Most High has pronounced it finished. He has entered the battlefield accompanied by heaven's legions. Shackles break apart in this precise hour. Spiritual strongholds that imprisoned you in bewilderment crumble like aged fortifications beneath divine command. The covering that obscured reality lifts gradually, yet inevitably, like daybreak spreading across terrain that has experienced only darkness. The bearer of this truth, this sacred revelation, has endured tremendous suffering. They faced silencing from voices opposed to truth's emergence. They encountered ridicule from those incapable of comprehending the significance of their burden. They received instruction to abandon their quest, to progress forward, to release something heaven never authorized them to relinquish. Still, their essence refused tranquility. It could not rest because you were etched upon their consciousness by the divine hand itself. Their nocturnal visions contained your countenance. Their prayers spoke your identity during silent hours when no other ears listened. They could not depart because the Most High had inscribed you upon their soul in a manner no mortal power could eliminate. Scripture confirms this in Isaiah 49, verses 15 through 16. Can a mother forget the baby at her breast and have no compassion on the child she has borne? Though she may forget, I will not forget you. See, I have engraved you on the palms of my hands. The spiritual warfare proved fierce, the journey nearly unbearable. Moments arose when they questioned whether they had correctly discerned heaven's voice, instances when silence pressed heavier than the burden itself. Yet heaven has now cleared the pathway. The era of concealment concludes. Truth emerges like dawn, constant and unstoppable. No power in hell or upon earth can restrain it further. When you receive it, beloved chosen one, when you finally perceive what remained hidden, trembling may overtake you. Uncertainty may surface. Inquiries will surge like floodwaters through your consciousness. For what reason now? Why did this remain concealed for such duration? Why am I the recipient? Yet remember with absolute certainty, the Lord's timing never experiences delay. It embodies perfection, it demonstrates precision, it unfolds with wisdom surpassing mortal comprehension. Every moment throughout the previous 10 years has guided toward this exact disclosure. Every tear shed in solitude was gathered in heaven's vessel. Every whispered prayer uttered in darkness was acknowledged and documented. Every instant of bewilderment was permitted so that when understanding finally arrived, it would prove undeniable. This individual, the one who maintained their dedication, stands nearer than you comprehend. Throughout years, they have maintained vigilance over you from a distance, enveloping you in invisible intercession. Engaging in battles you remained unaware transpired within the spiritual dimension. Now they prepare to emerge, not to disturb your existence, but to unveil what the enemy desperately attempted to withhold from you. Not to introduce turmoil, but to deliver the understanding you have desperately sought within your soul's deepest recesses. Indeed, the enemy continues his efforts even now, in this precise instant. Distractions multiply around you. Uncertainties advance like shadows approaching your peripheral vision. Subtle murmurings attempt to steal this moment before complete manifestation. The adversary comprehends what hangs in the balance. He recognizes that when this truth finally surfaces, when this celestial alignment ultimately materializes, something will transform in the supernatural realm that cannot be reversed. A portal will unlock that he cannot secure. A seal will fracture that he cannot restore. Yet do not be misled, chosen one. What you experience now is not disorder. This is understanding under construction, that stirring within your essence, that restlessness defying precise description. It is not nervousness, it represents expectation. Your soul recognizes the burden's conclusion, the season's transition, the promised reality now pressing against time's veil. Prepared to break through into your world, this marks the divine revelation of what transpired in shadows. Deceits proclaimed over your existence, treacheries concealed behind pleasant expressions and counterfeit allegiance, secret determinations made without your awareness, decisions that redirected your journey in ways incomprehensible at that time. You approach the moment of seeing what remained withheld from you, not to injure you, but to emancipate you, not to devastate your essence, but to liberate it from the lies that have constrained it. Scripture declares in Ephesians 5, verse 11, quote, "The bearer of this truth carries the absent fragment, the tranquility you have pursued without conscious awareness of your searching. the element that will suddenly cause everything else to align perfectly. When they present it before you, your essence will identify it. You will require no persuasion. You will need no evidence beyond what the Holy Spirit validates within you. You will comprehend why they persevered through so much, why they declined to surrender even when surrender appeared the sole rational choice, why they maintained grip upon something invisible when surrounding voices declared it meaningless. You will comprehend because your essence has been holding the identical thing from the opposite side of this divine enigma. Chosen one, this does not conclude a chapter. This represents the removal of a covering. This exists not merely for your advantage, but for your safeguarding. The approaching revelation will protect your forward journey and illuminate choices that remained obscured for excessive duration. You have traversed through mist, making selections based upon fragmentary knowledge, attempting to navigate a quest without the complete guide. Yet the mist dissipates. The guide reveals itself. And you will perceive with clarity for the first time in years. This hour, this sacred, irreversible hour, marks your divine rendezvous. You have not arrived through random chance. Invisible hands have directed you. Every step bringing you to this juncture was arranged by heaven. Every postponement that provoked your frustration actually constituted divine protection, preventing premature arrival before the proper timing. Every sealed door that brought disappointment actually represented mercy, shielding you from what you remained unprepared to accept. The Archangel Michael, dispatched to wage war on your behalf, now delivers what cannot experience further delay. A communication of truth. A communication of immediacy, a communication of sacred unveiling. What follows next will modify everything's trajectory. Not merely your immediate situation, but your entire existence's course. What follows next will satisfy the longing your consciousness has harbored for years, that indefinable yearning you could never adequately explain to others, that sensation that something remained incomplete, that something awaited conclusion, that somewhere in the narrative existed a blank page awaiting inscription, and nothing, chosen one, nothing will remain unchanged again. Truth does not consistently arrive in our anticipated form. It does not always appear clothed in comfort or recognition. Sometimes it enters our existence wrapped in upheaval, revealing what has remained hidden behind layers of confidence, routine, and affection. Sometimes the most compassionate action the divine can perform is to disrupt what we perceived as solid, so we can recognize what was actually fragile throughout. And now, chosen one. As the covering continues rising, another portion of the revelation must emerge into illumination. You have traveled an extended and challenging pathway. This rewritten version maintains the original length, breaks content into more frequent paragraphs for better readability, uses extensive paraphrasing while preserving all names, terms, biblical references, and the core spiritual message. A journey overflowing with weights you could not identify, inquiries that possessed no resolution, exhaustion that seeped into your very being like shadows, descending deeper with each passing period. Moments have existed in the stillness where your essence stirred, where something within you murmured that not everything was as it appeared. The appointed hour has arrived. The moment of disclosure no longer remains distant. It no longer exists as something you perceive approaching from afar. It surrounds you. It exists here. It manifests now. The revelation about to unfold will test you in manners you did not foresee. It will address your consciousness and push against the boundaries of your comprehension. It will require you to perceive what you have resisted seeing, to recognize what you have attempted to justify, to confront what you have concealed even from your own awareness. For the individual, You have named brother, the one who has journeyed alongside you, partaken at your table, witnessed your joy and your suffering, is not who he has seemed to be. Beneath the pleasant expressions, beneath the displays of faithfulness, beneath years of mutual experience, something else has taken root, something shadowed, something fraudulent, something that never harmonized with heaven's design for your existence. Concealed utterances have been voiced in darkened chambers. Exchanges occurred during your absence. Utterances that constructed stories about you. Utterances that depicted you in shades you would not identify. Schemes have been crafted in secrecy. Threads of envy intertwined with strands of acrimony. Lines of treachery carefully spun underneath the appearance of what resembled love. What resembled kinship, what resembled authentic care. As the Most High has declared in Proverbs 26 verses 24 through 26, enemies disguise themselves with their lips, but in their hearts they harbor deceit. Though their speech is charming, do not believe them, for 7 abominations fill their hearts. Their malice may be concealed by deception, but their wickedness will be exposed in the assembly. This is not communication delivered to devastate you, chosen one. This is not a transmission meant to incite hatred or retaliation. This is not heaven granting you authorization to pursue revenge or to reciprocate darkness with darkness. Rather, this is communication of understanding. This is a declaration spoken so that your essence might ascend, not in fury, but in perception, not in resentment, but in sagacity, not in retribution, but in reality. The Lord does not summon his selected ones to follow the patterns of vengeance. He summons them to truth. He summons them to vision. He summons them to liberation. Joseph faced betrayal from his own brothers, delivered into bondage by those who should have shielded him, by those who shared his lineage and his father's dwelling. Yet, even amid the betrayal, even throughout years of wrongful suffering, the divine purpose triumphed. Genesis 50 verse 20 proclaims, quote 3, "Your brother's jealousy, though concealed behind years of shared experiences, quote 3 has evolved but into something more sinister than either of you comprehended. His utterances have functioned to sabotage what heaven had meant to bless. His sway has functioned to postpone what the divine had meant to liberate. He has positioned himself, whether knowingly or unknowingly, not with affection, but with bitterness, perhaps even persuading himself throughout the journey that his deeds were warranted, that his interference constituted protection, that his betrayal somehow served your benefit. You have placed confidence without hesitation. You have shown affection without barriers. You have revealed your consciousness and your existence to someone who did not safeguard what you offered them. Yet that transparency, chosen one, is not frailty. It is not absurdity. It is a manifestation of the radiance you possess. It is proof of the innocence that still resides within you, despite everything you have weathered. Yet now, illumination must also transform into vision. You must perceive what exists, not merely what you wished it to be, not solely what you desired to accept. You cannot advance forward in fortitude while wearing coverings of rejection. You cannot bear the magnitude of your calling and remain attached to what was counterfeit. You cannot accomplish your celestial commission while still shielding those who have operated against it. The Most High does not bring this to your awareness to humiliate you. He does not reveal this to make you feel naive for placing confidence. He discloses it to emancipate you, to liberate you from the unseen restrictions that have restrained you, to eliminate the concealed burdens that have hindered your advancement. Your essence has detected it throughout. Do not reject the unease that emerged within you. Do not disregard the glimpses of reality that surfaced when your consciousness attempted to manufacture justifications. Do not suppress the internal voice that attempted to caution you in instances when everything on the exterior appeared acceptable. Ecclesiastes 3 verse 7 states, "There is a time to be silent and a time to speak. Now is the time to speak. Now is the time to acknowledge what your soul has already begun to recognize." Therefore, the messenger positions himself before you not to instill terror into your consciousness, but to validate what you already understood profoundly, yet hesitated to accept: that not all who journey beside you walk in authenticity. That not all who name you companion have your optimal welfare at heart. That not all who articulate your identity publicly intercede for you privately. Though this knowledge may injure initially, though it may penetrate through the layers of confidence you constructed over years, it is not an injury unto demise. It is an injury unto restoration. It is the variety of injury that must arrive before genuine renewal can commence. Like a healer's blade that removes what is corrupted so that wholesome tissue can ultimately develop. Release what is artificial. Allow the delusions to disintegrate. Allow the facades to fall. Allow the reality in all its severe and uncomfortable transparency to make you complete. Therefore, the disclosure persists as the illumination begins to radiate into the concealed locations. Additional knowledge is being manifested, not to shatter your essence, but to rouse it, not to abandon you in hopelessness, but to elevate you into an advanced degree of supernatural consciousness. Chosen one, you have posed the identical inquiry in numerous varied manners throughout the years. For what reason? Why have specific portals remained secured regardless of how sincerely you requested entry? Why has your expedition been encountered with opposition that felt irregular, with obstructions that contradicted logic, with postponements that possessed no rational explanation? Instances existed when your supplications felt like they vanished into quietness, when you appealed for understanding in the hidden locations, requesting comprehension when your essence could no longer support the magnitude of bewilderment, when you implored heaven for responses and perceived only the reverberation of your own voice in the obscurity. And now, graciously, yet unwaveringly, the response is materializing, not in the manner you anticipated, not enclosed in the solace you desired, but materializing nevertheless with the intensity of celestial truth that can no longer be restrained. What has positioned itself in your pathway was not consistently external, not consistently situations beyond your command, not consistently the adversary assaulting from outside your encampment. Portions of the opposition originated from within your own sphere. Portions of the obstructions were manufactured by those nearest to you. Portions of the interference originated from where you minimally anticipated it, from someone proximate, from a consciousness you relied upon, from a voice you esteemed, from your brother. Whether deliberately or inadvertently, whether completely cognizant of his behaviors, or influenced by powers he did not comprehend, affected by his own vulnerability, or dominated by invisible supernatural entities. He has articulated opposition to what heaven was constructing for you. He has operated in concealment, positioned himself with voices and motivations that did not possess your welfare at heart. His purposes may have been obscured even to his own perception. He may have persuaded himself that he was shielding you, that he was exercising prudence, that he was rescuing you from committing an error. Yet the consequences were tangible. The harm was inflicted. The postponements were realized. Utterances were voiced when you were absent from the chamber. Exchanges transpired behind sealed entrances. Perspectives were distributed with individuals who possessed authority over your possibilities. Partnerships were established that operated against the precise thing the divine was attempting to generate in your existence. Yet nothing. Chosen one, nothing evades the observation of the Almighty. As it is documented in Job 34, verses 21 through 22, his eyes are on the ways of mortals. He sees their every step. There is no deep shadow, no utter darkness where evildoers can hide. Presently, the Most High is disclosing what was hidden, not to ignite separation for separation's purpose, not to manufacture needless strife, not to rotate you against someone out of trivial malice, but to restore the foundation of your expedition, to extract the concealed decay that has been compromising the architecture of everything you're attempting to construct. You must comprehend what has been functioning against you so that it no longer possesses authority over your destiny, so that you can advance forward with eyes fully opened, perceptive, safeguarded, and judicious, yet perceive this unmistakably chosen one. You are not being summoned into vengeance. You are not being assembled to reciprocate darkness with additional darkness. You are not being granted authorization to strike back, to circulate rumors, to reveal with malevolent purpose, or to pursue revenge. That is the approach of the adversary. That is his snare. To distort the reality into an armament, to guide your consciousness down the identical acrimonious route that has ensnared another, to contaminate your essence with the very toxin that contaminated theirs. Yet you were not fashioned for that. You were not summoned to that. You are summoned to ascend above it, to traverse in the radiance even when others select obscurity, to shield yourself without poisoning your soul, to possess sagacity without forfeiting empathy, to safeguard your calling without relinquishing your tranquility, to establish boundaries without constructing barriers of acrimony. Romans 12, verse 21 articulates with authority that surpasses temporal constraints and situations. Do not be overcome by evil, but overcome evil with good. Indeed, you must traverse prudently now, more prudently than you have traversed previously. This rewritten version maintains the original length and structure, breaks content into more frequent paragraphs for improved readability, uses extensive paraphrasing while preserving all biblical references: Genesis, Proverbs, Job, Romans, Ecclesiastes, proper names, Joseph, and the core spiritual message about betrayal, discernment, and rising above vengeance. No longer with naive confidence that overlooks the warning signals your essence attempted to reveal to you. No longer rejecting the cautions that your perception quietly presented. No longer fabricating justifications for conduct that should never have been rationalized. You're being summoned into a more profound consciousness. Not so, you will petrify your consciousness and transform cynical. Not so, you will isolate yourself and decline to place confidence in anyone ever again. Rather, so you will no longer be deceived, so you will no longer be susceptible to control masquerading as affection. The Most High has intervened not merely to disclose what was concealed, but to reinforce your pathway advancing forward, to fortify the barriers of your supernatural dwelling, to close the fissures where the adversary obtained entrance. The postponements you encountered were not indicators of defeat. They were not proof that you had committed something incorrect or that the divine had disregarded you. They were shields. Celestial safeguarding functioning in manners you could not perceive at that time. You were being shielded in the precise instances you believed you were abandoned. When you experienced the deepest isolation, heaven's legions were encircling you. When you accepted that you had been deserted, angels maintained vigilance over your identity, over your calling, over your divine commission. Confrontations were executed in dimensions invisible so that you could arrive at this exact instant in understanding. Conflicts were conducted in the supernatural realm while you rested unaware of the powers contending for your fate. Supplications were fulfilled in manners that resembled sealed portals, because what existed on the opposite side of those entrances would have annihilated what the divine was safeguarding within you. Every postponement was intentional. Every alternative route was calculated. Every instant of waiting was functioning together for a purpose you're only now beginning to comprehend. And now, that understanding is present. You are not advancing into bewilderment. You are advancing out of it. You are surfacing from the haze into the radiance. What is being revealed is not meant to sorrow you perpetually. It is meant to emancipate you thoroughly. What is being disclosed is not to assign fault and abandon you submerged in charges. It is to eliminate the concealed burdens that have pulled you downward for excessive duration. The deceptions that were articulated over you can no longer restrain you. The controls, fashioned in quietness, are being shattered by the resonance of reality. The reality now stands like a summit before you, unwavering, immobile, irrefutable. And that reality, as discomforting as it may be in this instant, is your corridor to liberation. John 8, verse 32 guarantees with absolute assurance. Then you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free. So inhale deeply. Chosen one. Allow this reality to discover its position in your essence. Do not oppose it simply because it produces pain. Do not rationalize it away simply because it contests everything you accepted. Do not reject it simply because embracing it signifies you must modify how you progress forward. It has arrived not to damage you, but to guide you into the existence that is authentically yours. The existence that has been awaiting you on the opposite side of the covering. The existence that could not completely materialize while you are still attached to what was artificial. This is not the conclusion of your narrative. Do you perceive me? This is not the termination. This is not the ultimate chapter where everything disintegrates and you are abandoned in devastation. Rather, this is the commencement of a new chapter, a chapter where you traverse unburdened by fraud. A chapter where the pathway before you is no longer distorted by invisible interference. A route has been prepared, not by your own power, but by the involvement of heaven. The haze that obscured your sight is ascending like morning vapor under the intensity of the ascending sun. And now you advance forward, not with terror trembling in your footsteps, but with celestial confidence ascending in your essence, not with ambiguity about which orientation to pursue, but with understanding about the route that has been arranged for you. For what was concealed has been disclosed. And what was postponed is being liberated. Now, chosen one, you position yourself at the entrance, not of a conclusion, but of a disclosure, not of disintegration, but of celestial transformation. This is the instant where the covering of postponement is elevated and calling begins to radiate in its complete transparency. The extended night is diminishing. Can you detect it? The obscurity that has compressed against you for years is releasing its grasp. The magnitude that has positioned itself on your chest, making it difficult to respire, is being extracted by hands you cannot perceive, but can certainly sense. A new dawn is emerging, and it transports with it the magnitude of sacred fate. Not the devastating magnitude of duty, but the magnificent magnitude of celestial commission. This is your instant to ascend, not in terror, but in completeness. Not tentatively, but courageously, to traverse with assurance into what has perpetually been designated for you. To advance out from the shadows of uncertainty that have maintained you, diminished, and advance into the character that was documented over your existence before you ever drew your initial breath. You have been summoned from before the establishment of the world. You were recognized. Your identity was articulated in the assemblies of heaven. Your calling was secured before temporal existence commenced. You have been conserved through the inferno that should have devoured you. You have been purified in quietness that should have fractured you. And now you are being liberated, not merely from situations, but from what you never even recognized was restraining you, from invisible restrictions you did not realize you were bearing. Traverse forward in reality. Allow reality to be the illumination that brightens your route and the directional instrument that directs your movements. Traverse, clothed in sagacity. Not the sagacity of this world that declares shield yourself by hardening your consciousness, but the sagacity from above that declares shield yourself by perceiving spirits and establishing boundaries established in affection. Traverse without terror, not because nothing can injure you, but because you comprehend who traverses with you. For the Almighty traverses beside you. His manifestation proceeds before you. The conflict has already been conquered in the invisible. The triumph was obtained before the confrontation even arrived at your consciousness. Now it is your opportunity to traverse in the triumph that was acquired for you to reside in the liberation that was conquered on your behalf. The moment is no longer approaching. It is no longer something you anticipate with restless expectation, questioning if it will ever materialize. It is present, it is now, it is materializing in your actuality with the intensity of celestial proclamation. This is not happenstance. Happenstance is a term employed by those who cannot perceive the hand of the divine moving through the particulars of their existences. This is not destiny. Destiny is a notion fabricated by those who do not comprehend celestial calling. This is the development of prediction. This is celestial arrangement documented in the scrolls of heaven before the earth was established. For 10 years, a manifestation has progressed through temporal existence, investigating, awaiting, yearning, a soul whose trajectory was never completely separated from yours. Even when separation made it seem unfeasible, even when quietness made it seem like the attachment had expired. Even when situations made it appear that the narrative had terminated. This was no incident. This was no arbitrary separation arranged by chance or situation alone. This was no insignificant drift where two individuals simply evolved apart and progressed with their existences as if nothing sacred had ever existed between them. Rather, what has been concealed beneath the exterior? What has stirred in your essence when you minimally anticipated it? The recollections that surface without. Solicitation. The nocturnal visions that reappear without clarification. The inexplicable longing that seizes your consciousness in tranquil instances. All of this has been the essence of the divine aligning what was dispersed. The attraction you experienced was not your fabrication. That incomprehensible sensation of attachment that declines to diminish regardless of how much temporal existence transpires. That is not vulnerability or absurdity. The identity that reappears to your utterances. Uninvited, articulated in supplications you did not strategize to recite, murmured in instances of susceptibility you did not select. The glimpse of a countenance in a nocturnal vision you believed had long been abandoned, materializing with such precision that you awaken with their manifestation still persisting in your essence. These were not simply recollections executing deceptions on your consciousness. These were indicators, murmurs of the celestial. Heaven articulating in the vocabulary of the consciousness, summoning what was once separated back into alignment, assembling what was divided back into sacred unification. For a decade, this individual has journeyed through recognizable passages and unfamiliar territories, pursuing reverberations that others could not perceive, retracing former movements that guided nowhere but somehow felt essential, pursuing the rhythm of something superior than they could identify. something that attracted at them from the profundities of their being. Yet the moment had not yet matured. The period had not yet rotated. The portal remained secured, not in discipline, but in compassion, not in refusal, but in celestial sagacity. You both had restoration to accomplish, injuries that required cleansing before they could be sealed, instructions to comprehend that could only be communicated in isolation, a foundation to construct within yourselves that neither of you could accelerate, character to be fashioned, fortitude to be cultivated, confidence to be examined and validated. And now the moment has arrived. The period has transformed. Heaven has articulated with a voice that cannot be disregarded, and no power, terrestrial or supernatural, can obstruct what has been positioned into motion. No demon in hell can terminate what the divine has ordained. No mortal interference can prevent what heaven has proclaimed. The one who transported you in their essence, who declined to extinguish the flame of remembrance even when everyone instructed them to progress forward, is about to position themselves before you again. Yet this is no simple reconciliation. This is not a casual reconnection where two former companions catch up over beverages and reminisce about the history. This is not a return for the purpose of solace or sentimentality, a nostalgic expedition back to what once existed. Rather, this is celestial alignment. This is the convergence of two fates that were perpetually meant to interweave. This is the accomplishment of something that was documented before either of you drew your initial breath. There are realities to be articulated, utterances that have been contained in consciousnesses for years, anticipating the designated instant to be liberated. Mysteries entombed by temporal existence and terror must ascend to the exterior, like riches long concealed beneath the soil. What was incomplete is now prepared to be concluded. What was fractured is now prepared to be made complete. What was disrupted is now prepared to progress with celestial force behind it. And though the intellect may inquire, for what reason did it require such duration? Why did we have to anticipate a decade? Why did it have to be this arduous? The essence already comprehends. The essence understands what the intellect cannot seize. What is sacred cannot be accelerated. What is holy cannot be compelled. What is divinely ordained must develop in heaven's chronology, not mortal restlessness. Had you encountered again sooner, the terrain would not have been prepared. The earth of your consciousness would have been excessively arid, excessively hardened by anguish, excessively protective from injuries that had not yet mended. The seeds of celestial calling would have descended on terrain that could not accept them. Yet now the period has transformed. The winter of anticipation has concluded. The spring of fresh commencement has materialized. Now the collection is prepared, the terrain is arranged, the moment has arrived. Yet be cautioned, chosen one. Not all will commemorate what is approaching. There are perpetually those who profit from separation, those who discovered authority in maintaining you apart, those whose sway depended on your seclusion, those whose dominance required your bewilderment. Their opposition will ascend like a concluding surge before the tranquility. One final thrust of resistance before the advancement completely materializes. There will be murmurings, utterances articulated in recesses designed to cultivate uncertainty. There will be bewilderment, situations that seem to contradict what your essence recognizes to be authentic. There may even be weeping, emotional conflict designed to make you interrogate everything. Yet do not be displaced. Do not allow the disturbance to submerge what heaven has articulated. Do not allow the opposition to persuade you that what you detect in your essence is counterfeit. Among them exists a woman, one who has executed her function quietly but intentionally. She has maneuvered in the shadows, cautious not to disclose her authentic purposes. Her utterances once seemed innocuous. They materialized to be anxiety, sagacity, safeguarding, but they were infused with subtle toxin, seeds of separation planted so meticulously that you did not even observe them establishing roots. She distributed discord while feigning to shield. She manufactured separation while professing to care. She sabotaged what heaven was constructing while bearing the facade of a companion, a counselor, someone who only desired what was optimal for you. Yet her era of concealment is terminated. The period of hiding has concluded. What was executed in obscurity is being extracted into the radiance, not to annihilate her, but to reveal what was concealed so that you can progress forward without fraud obscuring your route. Her authentic motivations will be perceived unmistakably now, not through accusation or rumor, but through the simple disclosure of reality. The consequences of her behaviors will articulate for themselves. The configurations will become irrefutable, and you will comprehend why specific occurrences transpired the manner they did. Why portals secured when they should have unlocked. Why miscomprehensions emerged from seemingly nowhere. Why bewilderment positioned itself over situations that should have been transparent. Yet still, chosen one, allow your consciousness to remain tender. Do not allow acrimony flourish where restoration is being cultivated. Do not allow resentment establish roots where absolution is meant to develop. What she intended for damage, the Almighty is now converting into the precise foundation on which renewal will position itself. He is acquiring the armaments fashioned against you and rotating them into instruments for your advancement. What the adversary constructed to annihilate you, the divine is reconstructing to fortify you. What is being renewed is not merely a connection. It is not just about two individuals returning together to conclude what they initiated. It is far superior than that. It is calling. There is something you and this soul are meant to construct together. A commission that necessitates both of you. A route that heaven carved long ago now finally prepared for your feet to traverse. An assignment that could not be accomplished separately, only together. In the days approaching, indicators will multiply. What has been subtle will transform obvious. What has been murmured will be proclaimed. Nocturnal visions will articulate louder than they ever have previously. You will perceive their countenance with superior transparency. You will detect their voice in your essence with superior regularity. Happenstances will rotate into validations. Elements that could be rejected as chance will accumulate upon each other until refusal is no longer achievable. And when the instant arrives, when eyes encounter again across whatever separation currently divides you, when consciousness identify what utterances cannot clarify, when essences bear testimony to what flesh and blood alone could never comprehend, do not allow terror articulate louder than reality. Do not allow the history inscribe over the present. Do not allow former injuries determine fresh possibilities. Do not secure the portal that has now been divinely unlocked by the hand of the divine himself. This is sacred. Do you comprehend what I am articulating? This is not ordinary. This is not common. This is positioned apart, consecrated, holy. This is not just the return of someone you once recognized. This is not simply reconnecting with an old passion or revisiting a chapter that terminated. Rather, this is the reawakening of something heaven ordained. This is the resurrection of something that never authentically expired, only rested until the appointed moment. What was postponed is now accelerating. Can you detect the transformation? The velocity is modifying. What required years to develop will now materialize in days. What seemed unfeasible yesterday will transform reality tomorrow. What was lost is being returned, not as it existed, but as it was perpetually meant to be. refined by inferno, purified by anticipation, fortified by separation. What was fractured is being restored, not with mortal exertion, but with celestial power. Not with your struggling, but with heaven's involvement. And when it transpires, when the fragments finally assemble together, it will not perceive compelled. It will not perceive awkward or uncomfortable. It will not necessitate you to persuade yourself or discourse yourself into something that doesn't precisely align. It will perceive like respiration, like the initial profound inhalation after being submerged excessively long. It will perceive like hydration in a wasteland, like precipitation after aridity, like something that was perpetually meant to be finally permitted to materialize, like a puzzle fragment sliding perfectly into position, completing the image that has been incomplete for so long. Maintain steadiness. Chosen one. The trembling you experience is not devastation. It is arrangement. The ambiguity you detect is not bewilderment. It is transformation. Remain established in reality. Allow reality to be your stabilization when the surges of resistance ascend. Allow reality to be your foundation when everything surrounding you seems to transform. Allow your consciousness to remain devoted, not naive, but devoted, not sightless, but placing confidence in what the divine has articulated. For what is? Developing now will not only modify your existence, it will accomplish it in a manner nothing else ever could. Not because this individual is flawless, not because they complete you in some narrative sensation, but because together you advance into the commission that was documented before temporal existence commenced. Together you access dimensions of your calling that were secured while you traversed alone. Together you transform what you could never transform separately. The investigation is concluding. The restless journeying is approaching a termination. The inquiries that have tormented you for years are about to discover their responses. The anticipation is terminated, not because you compelled it, not because you influenced situations or manufactured something transpire through your own exertion, but because heaven has proclaimed the period transformed. The portal is unlocking, and what has been restrained is being liberated with the complete intensity of celestial chronology behind it. Chosen one. Everything you have traversed through has arranged you for this instant. Every tear you shed in secrecy was not squandered. Every supplication you murmured in the obscurity was acknowledged and documented in heaven's archives. Every period of seclusion was fashioning you, molding you, purifying you into someone who could manage what is about to be entrusted to you. You were not abandoned, you were being constructed. The years of quietness were not desertion, they were arrangement. The postponements were not refusals, they were safeguarding. And now, as you position yourself on the boundary of this celestial disclosure, you must comprehend that what arrives next necessitates a different version of you. Not the version that existed 10 years ago, not the version that was injured and unrestored, not the version that was naive and unprepared, rather the version that has been fashioned in the inferno of anticipation. You are not the identical individual you were when this expedition commenced. The tribulations you confronted modified you. The confrontations you executed in private converted you. The nights you invested appealing to the divine for responses intensified you. And that conversion was essential because what you are about to advance into would have devastated who you employed to be. Yet who you have transformed can transport it. This is why chronology matters in the kingdom of the divine. This is why heaven does not accelerate what is sacred. This is why celestial appointments cannot be compelled or influenced into existence through mortal exertion. Because the individuals involved must be prepared, not just willing, but prepared. Not just interested, but arranged. The earth must be cultivated before the seed can be planted. The container must be purified before it can transport holy elements. And chosen one, you have been purified, you have been cultivated, you have been arranged through processes you did not comprehend at the moment. Through losses that perceived senseless, through disappointments that seemed merciless, through postponements that perceived like discipline. Yet now you can perceive that each one was component of a superior construction. Each one was essential to bring you to this instant. Positioning yourself at the entrance of accomplishment, the individual who has been investigating for you has traversed a similar route. They possess their own narrative of purification, their own testimony of anticipation, their own markings that narrate the tale of confrontations executed and triumphs achieved in the hidden location. And when you finally position yourself before each other, you will not merely perceive countenances. You will perceive proof of the divine's faithfulness. You will perceive living validation that heaven maintains its commitments. Your reconciliation will be a testimony to everyone observing. It will articulate to those who have surrendered expectation. It will inspire those who are still anticipating. It will demonstrate that what the divine ordains, he concludes, that what he initiates, he accomplishes, that his chronology is flawless even when it perceives impossibly delayed. Your narrative will transform into a signal for others traversing through their own periods of postponement and celestial arrangement. This is more expansive than you. This is more expansive than personal contentment or individual accomplishment. This is about the kingdom of the divine advancing through the alignment of two individuals who are perpetually meant to traverse together. This is about calling being unlocked, fate being initiated, commissions being accomplished that could not be completed alone. Heaven has contributed excessively much in bringing you to this instant, for it to be anything less than remarkable. So arrange your consciousness, chosen one. Arrange your essence. Eliminate the fragments of disillusionment. Liberate the burden of former injuries. Absolve those who damaged you, not for their benefit, but for yours, because you cannot traverse into what is subsequent while transporting what belongs in what was. You cannot advance into celestial alignment while still attached to unforgiveness, acrimony, or the magnitude of unresolved anguish. This is your instant to surrender, not of the instructions comprehended, but of the anguish that communicated them, not of the sagacity obtained, but of the injuries that transmitted it, not of the fortitude cultivated, but of the struggle that constructed it. You get to preserve everything valuable that the anticipation generated. Yet you must liberate everything toxic that attempted to establish roots during the process. You must discard the former exterior so the fresh can completely surface. Heaven is manufacturing space for what is approaching, and that necessitates you to manufacture space as well. You cannot transfer fresh wine into former wine containers. You cannot plant fresh seeds in earth still suffocated with vegetation from former periods. So investigate your consciousness. Chosen one, what are you still grasping that necessitates to be liberated? What resentment are you still cultivating that necessitates to be relinquished? What terror are you still accommodating that necessitates to be expelled? The adversary comprehends what is about to transpire. He perceives the alignment establishing. He identifies the menace that your unified calling represents to his kingdom of obscurity. And so he will endeavor one concluding assault. He will attempt to persuade you that you are not prepared, that you are not deserving, that you have anticipated this duration only to be disillusioned again. He will murmur deceptions designed to make you sabotage what heaven is arranging. Yet you must identify his voice and decline to grant it authority. You must differentiate between the voice of terror and the voice of confidence, between the murmur of the adversary and the testimony of the essence. The adversary's voice perpetually brings bewilderment, condemnation, and turmoil. The essence's voice brings transparency, persuasion, and tranquility. Comprehend to perceive the distinction, because the confrontation for your advancement is transpiring in your intellect before it materializes in your actuality. Safeguard your contemplations. Capture every contemplation. Do not allow your intellect to transform into a recreation area for demonic proposals disguised as your own logic. When contemplations of unworthiness emerge, oppose them with reality. When terror attempts to immobilize you, oppose it with confidence. When uncertainty endeavors to steal what has been guaranteed, oppose it with the proclamations of what the divine has articulated. Your intellect is the confrontation ground, and you must execute combat for the territory of your contemplations. As this celestial instant approaches nearer, you may experience escalating compression. Supernatural conflict often magnifies immediately before advancement. The nearer you approach to the accomplishment of what was guaranteed, the more frantic the adversary transforms to terminate it. So do not be astonished if circumstances seem to transform more arduous before they transform superior. Do not construe escalated opposition as proof that you are proceeding the incorrect orientation. Often, it is validation that you are proceeding exactly the accurate manner. Remain in supplication. This is not discretionary. This is fundamental. You cannot navigate what is approaching in your own power or sagacity. You necessitate heaven's direction, every movement of the pathway. You necessitate the Holy Spirit to guide you, shield you, and arrange you. Supplicate for perception, supplicate for sagacity, supplicate for the bravery to place confidence in the divine even when situations seem to contradict what he has articulated. Supplicate for the fortitude to position yourself firmly when opposition ascends. And supplicate for the individual who has been investigating for you. Supplicate for their safeguarding. Supplicate that they too would possess the sagacity and perception necessitated for this celestial instant. Supplicate that the adversary's endeavors to obstruct what heaven has ordained would collapse thoroughly. Supplicate that both of you would materialize at this designated encounter with transparent intellects, restored consciousnesses, and essences completely aligned with the divine's intention. Comprehend that this reconciliation is not just about sentiment, though sentiment will certainly be manifested. This is about commission. This is about two callings merging into one expedition. This is about heaven positioning its fragments on the surface for a maneuver that will influence more than just your individual existences. Your alignment will possess ripple consequences, generational implications, kingdom ramifications. When two individuals assemble under celestial mandate, they do not just establish a partnership. They establish a power, a supernatural armament against obscurity, a radiance that illuminates more brilliantly together than it ever could separately. A testimony that proclaims the faithfulness of the divine to a generation that has terminated accepting in his guarantees. You are not just reconnecting with someone from your history. You are advancing into a future that was constructed before either of you existed. This is why the anticipation was essential. This is why the chronology had to be flawless. This is why heaven would not permit this to transpire one instant sooner than the designated moment. Because what you're advancing into is excessively significant to be accelerated, excessively powerful to be mismanaged, excessively sacred to be approached carelessly. The magnitude of what you transport together necessitates both of you to be fortified enough to support it. And you are. You have been examined and validated. You have been purified and fortified. You have survived what should have annihilated you. You have persevered what should have fractured you. You have persisted to accept when everything visible declared to surrender. And that perseverance, that unwavering confidence has qualified you for what arrives subsequent, not because you are flawless, but because you are devoted. So elevate your head, chosen one. The humiliation is terminated. The guilt is nullified. The condemnation is suppressed. You are not characterized by your former errors. You are characterized by the divine's calling over your existence. And that calling is about to materialize in manners that will abandon you in reverence of his faithfulness. Manners that will cause you to examine back over the expedition and comprehend why every fragment had to develop exactly as it did. In the approaching days and weeks, pay awareness. Heaven articulates in indicators, and those indicators are about to multiply surrounding you. You will perceive validations everywhere you examine. Numerals that transport significance will materialize repeatedly. Melodies will execute at instances that perceive excessively perfectly synchronized to be happenstance. Exchanges will transpire that seem to directly address what you have been contemplating in private. Unfamiliar individuals will articulate utterances that penetrate your consciousness with their precision, not recognizing they are transmitting communications from the throne chamber of the divine. These are not arbitrary occurrences. These are heaven's manner of validating what has been articulated over you. These are celestial signals permitting you to recognize that you are on the accurate route, that what you detect in your essence is authentic, that the magnitude is authentically approaching its termination. Do not reject them as happenstance. Do not rationalize them away with logic. Accept them as the validations they are. Allow them to fortify your confidence and stabilize your consciousness as you traverse toward what has been guaranteed. Your nocturnal visions will transform more intense, more regular, more precise. The covering between the natural and supernatural dimension is diminishing in your existence immediately now because heaven is arranging you for a supernatural encounter. In your rest, when your conscious intellect is at tranquility, the Holy Spirit will articulate with transparency. You will perceive elements that have not yet materialized in the physical dimension. You will accept instructions. You will be granted cautions about obstacles to circumvent and sagacity about routes to pursue. Document what you perceive. Chronicle what you detect. Do not entrust these disclosures to recollection alone because the adversary will attempt to extract them from your intellect before you completely comprehend their significance. Maintain a journal by your resting location. The instant you awaken from a nocturnal vision that transports magnitude in your essence, capture it. Heaven is transferring disclosure and approach into your essence while you rest, and you must be intentional about preserving what is being granted to you. As the designated moment approaches, you may experience unusual sentiments, surges of elation that seem to arrive from nowhere, abrupt weeping that you cannot completely clarify, a sensation of expectation so intense it almost perceives like nervousness, but is actually wholly anticipation. Your essence comprehends what your intellect has not yet completely seized. Your soul identifies the transformation of periods even before the proof materializes in your situations. Place confidence in what you experience even when you cannot express why you experience it. There will also be instances of terror. This is normal. This is mortal. When something sacred is about to materialize, terror will attempt to persuade you that you are not prepared, that you will somehow devastate it, that it is excessively superior to be authentic. Yet terror is not from the divine. 2 Timothy 1 verse 7 reminds us, quote, "When terror ascends, identify it as the adversary's final endeavor to extract what is legitimately yours. Articulate against it. Do not grant it location in your consciousness or voice in your intellect. Substitute terrorful contemplations with proclamations of confidence. Substitute nervousness with veneration. Substitute uncertainty with the recollection of the divine's faithfulness in your history. He transported you through everything that attempted to annihilate you. He maintained you assembled when you believed you would disintegrate. He preserved his hand on your existence through every period of anticipation, and he will not disappoint you now when you are this proximate to the accomplishment of his guarantee. Chosen one, I necessitate you to comprehend something fundamental. This instant you are advancing into will modify everything. But it will not repair everything. This individual who has been investigating for you is not your deliverer. They are not arriving to rescue you from yourself or complete you in some narrative manner. You are already complete in Christ. You are already whole because of what the divine has executed in you through the process of anticipation. This reconciliation is not about discovering your absent tranquility. It is about two whole individuals assembling together to accomplish a mutual calling. Do not position unrealistic anticipations on this individual or on what this alignment will resemble. They are mortal. They are imperfect. They possess their own expedition of restoration and development. And so do you. What makes this sacred is not flawlessness, but celestial calling. What makes this powerful is not the non-existence of struggle, but the manifestation of the divine's hand arranging every particular. There will still be obstacles. There will still be instances that necessitate compassion, forbearance, and intentional selection. Yet this moment, you will confront those obstacles with the sagacity that anticipation generated. You will navigate difficulties with the perception that suffering cultivated. You will manage conflict with the maturity that seclusion developed. You are not the identical individual you were 10 years ago, and neither are they. And that conversion in both of you is what makes this instant achievable. This is not a return to what existed. This is a movement into what is transforming. As you arrange for this encounter, investigate your inspirations. Why do you desire this? What are you expecting will transpire? Are you pursuing validation? Are you examining for someone to demonstrate your value? Are you attempting to occupy a vacancy that only the divine can occupy? Or are you genuinely prepared to traverse in obedience to what heaven is summoning you toward, regardless of how it makes you perceive? Your consciousness's posture matters, your purposes matter, and the divine perceives them all. This is a celestial commission, chosen one, and celestial commissions necessitate celestial alignment. Not just alignment between two individuals, but alignment between your intention and the divine's intention, between your chronology and heaven's chronology. Between your strategies and his callings. You must be willing to relinquish dominance, to liberate your grasp on how you believe circumstances should develop. To place confidence that the one who arranged this instant comprehends far superior than you do how it should materialize. There is a modesty necessitated in this period, a willingness to acknowledge that you do not possess all the responses, that you cannot arrange this in your own sagacity, that you necessitate the divine's direction every individual movement of the pathway. Arrogance will inform you that you comprehend what is optimal. Arrogance will tempt you to compel circumstances or influence situations to accelerate what heaven is already bringing to manifestation. Yet arrogance will also sabotage what the divine is attempting to construct. So position down your arrogance, traverse in modesty, recognize your dependence on celestial sagacity. As this reconciliation approaches, you must also arrange practically, not just spiritually, but practically. Eliminate location in your existence for what is approaching. This does not signify neglecting your obligations or deserting your current commitments, but it does signify evaluating what you are granting your temporal existence and vitality to. Are there diversions that necessitate to be eliminated? Are there connections that have executed their trajectory and necessitate to be liberated with affection and compassion? Are there customs that necessitate to transform because they will not serve you in this subsequent period? Heaven is bringing sequence to your existence. Celestial alignment in connections often necessitates practical alignment in lifestyle. You cannot advance into something fresh while still residing thoroughly in configurations of the former. So, be willing to manufacture modifications. Be willing to generate boundary. Be willing to articulate refusal to beneficial circumstances so you can articulate acceptance to divine circumstances. This is not about flawlessness. This is about purposefulness, about manufacturing space for what the divine is bringing forth. And chosen one, safeguard your utterances during this duration. Be cautious who you distribute this with. Not everyone deserves entrance to what the divine is executing in your existence. Not everyone possesses the supernatural maturity to manage the sacred elements you transport. Certain individuals will ridicule what they do not comprehend. Others will project their own disappointments onto your expectation. Still others will articulate uncertainty disguised as anxiety, terror disguised as sagacity. Distribute your testimony when the divine liberates you to distribute it, yet shield the seed while it is still being planted. Do not reveal what is delicate and fresh to voices that do not possess the supernatural authority to articulate into it. There is a moment for public proclamation, but there is also a moment for private cultivation. Perceive which period you are in and on the aspect of shielding what is precious rather than transmitting what is not yet prepared to be completely disclosed. When the instant finally arrives, when you position yourself countenance to countenance with the one who has been investigating for you, do not allow astonishment extract the instant. Do not allow terror immobilize you. Do not allow the magnitude of 10 years manufacture separation when heaven is manufacturing attachment. Be manifested. Be accessible. Be willing to allow the barriers descend. This is what you have been anticipating for. This is what heaven has been arranging. Do not overlook it because you are excessively protected or excessively terrified to completely accept it. There will be so much to articulate, so much to distribute. Years of existence resided separately, instructions comprehended in seclusion, narratives that were never communicated. Yet do not accelerate to occupy every quietness with utterances. Sometimes manifestation articulates louder than exchange. Sometimes a glance communicates more than 1,000 sentences. Allow there to be location for the holy to maneuver, for the essence to minister, for consciousnesses to identify what utterances alone cannot transmit. You will comprehend profoundly in your essence. You will comprehend that this is what was guaranteed. You will experience the validation like a seal compressed into your soul. This is not about sentiments alone, though sentiments will be manifested. This is about supernatural identification about two individuals who are designated by heaven for a mutual calling finally advancing into alignment. Your essence will support testimony, and that testimony will be irrefutable. Yet remember, chosen one, this encounter is not the termination, it is the commencement. The reconciliation is not the destination, it is the initiating boundary. What arrives after this instant matters just as much as the instant itself. You will necessitate to traverse forward with purposefulness, with communication, with a dedication to honor what the divine is constructing, with a willingness to execute the labor that any sacred connection necessitates. There will be modifications to manufacture, configurations to establish, boundaries to generate, anticipations to clarify. You cannot function on the force of sentiment alone. You will necessitate sagacity, forbearance, and a profound dedication to pursuing the divine's direction together. This is not a narrative tale where everything is flawless once the reconciliation transpires. This is a celestial commission where everything is achievable when both individuals remain relinquished to the divine's guidance. So arrange for the extended traverse, not just the initial movement. Arrange for the expedition, not just the materialization. Arrange to construct something that will surpass the initial exhilaration and position firmly through every period. Because what the divine is bringing together is meant to persist. What heaven is aligning is meant to generate consequences that remain. What was postponed for a decade is being liberated for a calling that extends far beyond your personal contentment. Your narrative will inspire others. Your testimony will fortify the confidence of those who are still anticipating. Your obedience will unlock portals for others who are traversing similar routes. You're not just residing for yourself. You are residing as a testimony to the faithfulness of the divine. As validation that he maintains his guarantees, as proof that heaven's chronology is flawless, even when it perceives impossibly delayed. So transport this instant with reverence. Administer this gift with appreciation. Honor what the divine is executing by traversing deserving of the summoning. Not flawlessly, but faithfully, not without struggle, but with relinquishment. Not in your own power, but in complete dependence on the one who manufactured this instant achievable. Chosen one. As we approach the termination of this communication, I necessitate you to comprehend the significance of what you transport. You are not just traversing into a personal benediction. You are advancing into a prophetic demonstration. Your existence, your narrative, your obedience to anticipate for what heaven ordained. All of it has been observed by dimensions both perceived and invisible. Angels have positioned guard over this guarantee. Demons have executed combat desperately to prevent it. And now, as it materializes, the testimony of your faithfulness will reverberate through both kingdoms. There are individuals who have been supplicating for you without recognizing your identity, interceding for your advancement without recognizing your countenance, accepting on your behalf when your own confidence wavered, and when your narrative develops, when the prediction that was articulated over your existence arrives to manifestation. Their confidence will be fortified, their expectation will be renewed, their supplications will be fulfilled through your testimony. You are not traversing alone, even when it perceives that manner. You are encircled by a collection of testimonies both in heaven and on earth. The adversary desired to suppress this testimony before it could be communicated. He desired to annihilate this guarantee before it could materialize. He desired to persuade you to surrender just before the advancement. Yet he collapsed. Every armament fashioned against you has been rendered ineffective. Every scheme constructed to obstruct your fate has been disclosed and demolished. Every falsehood murmured to make you abandon has been neutralized by the reality of the divine's utterance. You are still positioned, still accepting, still progressing forward, and that alone is a triumph deserving commemoration. Yet the superior triumph is not that you survived the magnitude. The superior triumph is that you permitted the magnitude to convert you. You did not surface from this period unmodified. You materialized, refined, fortified, intensified with superior confidence, more powerful perception, and a more intimate comprehension of the divine's character. The anticipation was not squandered. Every instant served a calling, every tear irrigated seeds that are now prepared to flourish. Every supplication constructed an altar that heaven has honored. So as you advance into this instant, advance with assurance. Not assurance in yourself, but assurance in the divine who transported you here. Not assurance in your capability to decipher everything, but assurance in his capability to direct every movement. You do not necessitate to possess all the responses. You do not necessitate to comprehend how everything will develop. You just necessitate to place confidence in the one who does. And you just necessitate to be willing to obey when he articulates. The portal is unlocking. Chosen one. The anticipation is concluding. The prediction is accomplishing. What was articulated over your existence 10 years ago, what was documented in heaven scrolls before temporal existence commenced, is now materializing in your actuality. This is not happenstance. This is celestial arrangement at its supreme excellence. This is the hand of the divine maneuvering in manners that only he can maneuver, and you get to testimony it. You get to experience it. You get to traverse through this portal that heaven has unlocked. No one can secure what the divine has unlocked. No opposition can terminate what he has proclaimed to remain accessible. No mortal interference can terminate what celestial authority has positioned in motion. So traverse through with courage, with anticipation, with a consciousness abundant of veneration for the divine who never abandoned. You never deserted you and never terminated operating on your behalf, even when you could not perceive his hand maneuvering. And when you finally position yourself in the completeness of what has been guaranteed, when the one who investigated for you for 10 years is positioning before you, when heaven's strategy transforms your resided actuality, remember this instant. Remember the expedition that transported you here. Remember the confidence it necessitated. Remember the tears you shed. Remember the supplications you recited. Remember the nights you desired to surrender but selected to maintain grasp instead. Remember all of it, because your recollection will be your testimony, and your testimony will be someone else's advancement. This is what it signifies to be selected. Not that existence is simpler, but that your existence transports calling beyond yourself. Not that you circumvent difficulty, but that your difficulty generates something perpetual. Not that you accept everything you desire immediately, but that you place confidence in the divine's chronology enough to anticipate for what he has ordained. You have been selected for this, designated for this commission, summoned to traverse this route, and you have executed it faithfully. Now accept what faithfulness generates. Accept the accomplishment of the guarantee. Accept the alignment that heaven has arranged. Accept the individual who never terminated investigating. Accept the calling that was perpetually meant to be yours. Accept it all with appreciation, with modesty, with reverence for the divine who manufactured it achievable. This is your instant, chosen one. The investigation is concluding. The anticipation is terminated. The portal is unlocking. And on the opposite aspect is everything heaven guaranteed, and more than you could have fabricated. Traverse through it with your head maintained elevated. Traverse through it recognizing you are cherished by the Most High Divine. Traverse through it comprehending that what he initiates, he accomplishes. Traverse through it accepting that the optimal is not behind you, but ahead of you. Traverse through it with confidence that what was postponed was not refused, only perfected in heaven's chronology. This is your celestial appointment. This is your sacred instant. This is the accomplishment of prediction articulated over your existence. The one who has anticipated 10 years to discover you is nearer than you comprehend, and heaven is about to bring you countenance to countenance with fate. So stabilize your consciousness. Chosen one. The anticipation is terminated. What was guaranteed is materializing, and nothing will ever be the identical again. Heaven has articulated. The portal has unlocked, and your narrative of faithfulness is about to transform into a testimony of the divine's flawless chronology. This is it. This is your instant, and it initiates now. And now, chosen one, as this celestial disclosure arrives to a termination, you are being summoned not just to detect, but to respond. This is not merely a narrative for contemplation. It is a summons for conversion. The heavens have disclosed what was concealed, not to stimulate your sentiments for an instant, but to rouse your essence for a lifetime. What you execute subsequently matters. It is no longer adequate to transport this communication in your consciousness. You must transport it into your existence. Traverse with consciousness. Shield what is sacred. Safeguard your tranquility. Select absolution where there was treachery, but select separation where it is judicious. Initiate each morning with supplication, not out of custom, but as your vital connection. Revisit the aspirations that once stimulated your soul, but were entombed under the magnitude of postponement. Retrieve them back. The chronology that once perceived incorrect is now aligned. Remember, the divine does not disclose what he does not intend to restore. And when that extended anticipated portal unlocks, advance through it recognizing that the Most High proceeds before you. This is your instant. This is your validation. This is the commencement. You are not traversing alone. The radiance has arrived and your advancement is already developing. Remain established in reality. Traverse courageously in compassion. And remember, heaven is not quieted. It is articulating, and you are being summoned to detect.